Let's build this gradient button with an awesome hover effect. This button requires extremely little HTML. All you need is a button tag, wrap your text in a span, and you're all set on that part. We begin by styling our body to put the button around the center of the screen, just to make it a bit easier for us to see our progress. Don't forget to put a nice dark color. I like to use 13, 12, 17, which is a tad bit to the bluer side. The button will consist of 4 layers. In the bottom we have the button, which will have a gradient and handle the button stuff. Above the button tag we are going to use a before pseudo class, which will be a big blurred out gradient. The third layer will be an after pseudo class, which will cover most of the gradient with a black box. And the last layer will be the text. Let's build it! Currently our button looks a bit sad, so let's clean it up. Start by setting a position relative so we can use position absolute on our pseudo classes. Add some padding, the cool linear gradient, and remove the border. Last but not least, when we hover our button, it's nice to let the browser know we want a pointer. To add the before pseudo class, we start by creating the class like this and then give it the property content, where you can put a text string. We don't really need anything there, so we give it an empty string just to render the class. We give it an absolute position and stretch it to every side of the button. The background gets the same gradient as the base button had. Now to the secret sauce, filter and blur. This applies a Gaussian blur to our class, and if we give it a big enough pixel size, we get a really nice blur background. We will only show this on hover, so give it opacity 0 and a transition on the opacity. Add a class button hover before, where we put opacity 1. To make it come alive a little bit, let's give it a pulsating animation that scales it up and down a bit. Just like the before pseudo class, we can use the after pseudo class by giving it a content. We leave it empty this time as well. This layer is only here to add a black box and to create a border-like gradient, which we can do by using position absolute and leaving a few pixels on the edges of the class. Give it a good old 13, 12, 17 as background color and do the same opacity trick that we did for the before pseudo class. To style the text, we can add a CSS rule for the span, that is a direct child of the button. Since we're not using text anywhere else, I've put the font family in here. We set a font size and weight together with a white color, and we will need to add a position relative to be able to set the Z index, which is nice to set to 1 so that it will lie above our pseudo classes. And that's it! Clean and simple like that. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you think in the comments down below.